What's going on, guys? In today's video I'm talking about the iPhone X and the Galaxy Note 8. Now these are the two most popular phones available. I'm also going to explain which phone I think is better. But just starting with the Galaxy Note 8, this phone was announced before the iPhone X. Of course we saw that event from Samsung. A very interesting phone. Almost no bezel to the phone, a very impressive screen. Of course you get a stylus pen with the phone, and I know a lot of people out there are interested in that use the Galaxy Note 8, and that is something that separates it from an iPhone X. As far as the design overall with the iPhone X, I thought the screen was somewhat narrow compared to other phablets I've used. So this is something else going on in the industry. Companies are manufacturing the phablets somewhat narrow, and that's because some people out there might have complained that they couldn't use a phablet the same way they would use a different size phone. So in my opinion, I think a phablet should just be like that, like the LG V30, where it's not so narrow. But with the Galaxy Note 8, I think it's a very impressive phone. You are getting a Samsung experience, of course, with that phone. Again, the sensor is on the back of the phone, which I did have an issue with that because the sensor is right next to the camera lens, so it can be confusing for people that are using the phone. But overall, the experience with the Galaxy Note 8 is a very impressive experience, of course, because you're getting a fantastic phone from Samsung. Now, as far as the iPhone X, a very interesting phone as well. You're getting a fantastic design from Samsung. Somewhat. I was really going to say Apple, but Samsung is manufacturing the screens for the iPhone, so I guess you are getting somewhat of a Samsung experience from Apple. But what I was talking about isn't the Apple experience with the iPhone X. Of course, you get iOS, which is impressive to some people. You know, people do prefer iOS rather than Android, so if you're a fan of iOS, this might be the phone for you. As far as what I think about the iPhone, I also said that there was an issue with the screen because a portion of the screen is missing. And I think that is a design issue with that phone, and I think Apple's going to address that, and they're also going to make it better. So I really think at this point in time, the screen on the iPhone X is fantastic, besides the fact that a portion of the screen is missing. As far as the back of the phone, I don't think the design on the back of the iPhone is that impressive with the way it looks with the dual cameras. I think there is a much better way to implement the dual cameras where it doesn't look so odd on the back of the phone. And as far as the sensors that are used on the front of the phone, I think it's innovative, but also I don't think it's worth it compared to having a portion of the screen that's missing. So that really is an issue with the iPhone X in my opinion. But as far as the overall design, besides that one issue with the screen, I think the iPhone has the design right. This is a much different phone than previous versions of the iPhone. Of course, you get a lot less bezel, and I also think that's really impressive from Apple. As far as iOS, you guys know that I'm a fan of Android, so I'm not really impressed with iOS. But for people that are looking for an iPhone, a new iPhone, I think the iPhone X would be one of the phones that you look at, only for the fact that you wouldn't want to wait till next year for another iPhone. I also think that since this is the first iteration of an iPhone X with a lot less bezel, you are going to see a much better phone with the next iPhone. Just my personal opinion, but I think Apple's going to learn a lot from this first change from previous versions of the iPhone. When I compare the iPhone X to the Galaxy Note 8, I could see reasons why people will purchase the iPhone X, of course, or even the Galaxy Note 8. When I compare both phones and I say which phone I think is the best, I am saying the Galaxy Note 8. The reason why I would say the Galaxy Note 8 is that Samsung is leading the industry. Samsung is also providing hardware for Apple for their phones. And of course you have a fantastic experience with the Galaxy Note 8. Compared to Android, you can always just root that phone and get the stock version of Android if you're interested. Do I think that a lot of Apple fans would be convinced to get a Galaxy Note 8? It is possible because it's that impressive of a phone. Do I think a lot of Galaxy phone fans out there, including Galaxy Note fans, would switch to Apple for the iPhone X? I don't really think so. Now this is not so much of a criticism with Apple, but it really has to do with the design of the phone. When the phone is missing a portion of the screen, I know some people out there might have an issue when I criticize Apple like this, it just looks odd. It's something different than what people have seen before with other phones, and it's also distracting. There's some people out there that try to explain this in such a way where they say you're going to get used to that. No one's going to get used to that, not even the industry. What's happening now is that developers out there, application developers, have to include a screen size that's going to allow people to use their applications on that phone. Not only is it an inconvenience to the developers, it's not going to be a standard in the industry like I was talking about before. So this is something Apple has to change. I think what happened is that Apple was rushing the development of this phone and wanted to announce it before the holidays, and pretty soon after, Samsung announced their phones. Apple has their reasons for announcing their phones at certain times of the year, so does Samsung. What I like to see from Samsung is addressing that sensor on the back of the phone, so it makes a lot more sense, so it doesn't confuse people when they're using it. As far as the screen, I think you possibly, if you can innovate enough, get the sensor in the screen, and then also with Apple, you can address that issue where you can actually include the whole entire screen on the phone. And I think that's going to happen from Apple. I also think it's very impressive that Apple added wireless charging to their phone, because this is yet another feature that's already been a standard, but it's still something people want to use with their phones. And as far as batteries, the Galaxy Note 8 has the better battery technically, but compared to the iPhone X, I don't think too many people out there are going to notice a difference as far as using their phone and getting a great experience with the battery for the iPhone X. So I think they're pretty much equal in that way. It really is about a preference there, because if you like Android and you like the Samsung experience, you would want to use the Galaxy Note 8. If you're a fan of iOS and the iPhone, you would want to use the iPhone 10. You're going to notice a lot of similarities with these phones, and that's because these two companies are competing with each other all year to have the best phone of the year. With the iPhone 10, you have augmented reality, or even those emojis when you're talking to the phone. You can unlock your phone with the sensors on the front of the screen, although some people are giving mixed reviews about that. This is going to be about how you use the phone, and only you can really know, because if you use an iPhone 10 and you have an issue unlocking your phone and other people out there are saying how fantastic it is, obviously that could be an issue for you. So with the Samsung experience and the iOS experience, people are going to have their own preference for either of those platforms and features to the phone. I think what's going on here also is that what we see in comparison of the cameras, 12 megapixel camera from Samsung, 12 megapixel camera from Apple. If you take a picture with more megapixels, you have proper lighting, and the person using the camera knows how to use the camera, you are going to get better pictures. With the iPhone 10 and the Galaxy Note 8, 12 megapixel cameras on both phones, I think you're going to get a great experience with either phone using the cameras. So, we look at both phones, which phone I think is the best. As I said before also, I think the Galaxy Note 8 is the better phone compared to the iPhone 10. But I'd like to know what you guys think about all of this. Post your comments down below. Let me know what you think about both of those phones. And of course, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.